Why did the ancient Sith despise Darth Krayt and called him a Sith pretender? Greetings, students of the Force, and welcome to the Archives. The Sith have to struggle for everything they need, especially information, while the Jedi Order has the luxury of extensive libraries of histories and knowledge to refer to. When a Sith Lord gets in a bind, they are usually at the mercy of ancient dark side holocrons. Many times the gatekeepers aren't so inclined to help seekers of knowledge, considering the gatekeepers reflect the personalities of their creators. The Sith holocrons may hide, deceive, or even harm seekers of their lore who the gatekeepers deem as unworthy. This is what happened with the Dark Lord of the One Sith, Darth Krayt, a man essentially who ruled the galaxy in the legacy era of Star Wars. Darth Krayt was responsible for bringing together a powerful new order and era of the Sith, one strong enough to rival and defeat both the Jedi and the Galactic Alliance. And yet, despite his power and accomplishments, the ancient Sith absolutely loathed Darth Krayt. Krayt had once desperately gone to them for help only to receive mockery. So what was it about Krayt that made him the scorn of Sith holocrons, and ancient lords of the Sith long past? Well, today, we will open a holocron of our own and dive into the secrets of Krayt and the Ancients. Some time ago, we released several archive entries detailing the origins of Darth Krayt, how he began as Asherad Hett, an impressive Jedi during the Clone Wars era who hailed from the Tusken heritage. Once a roamer of Tatooine and a conqueror, Asherad managed to survive Order 66 simply by fighting his way out, a feat that is exceptionally rare for Jedi. In fact, no other Jedi really did this. Asherad Hett literally cut his way through his clone battalion, seeking a freedom that he would never find. Asherad fell from grace and would one day return to the Dune Sea in his exile, becoming a war chief of the Tusken Raider clans, uniting them all under his massive power. But this is small apples for a Sith Lord. This came to an end with a climactic battle with the Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, one where Asherad lost his arm and his pride in front of his people. Banished from Tatooine, Hett ended up on the world of Korriban, where he learned the ways of the Sith from an ancient spirit, Zozan. Unfortunately, the spirit of this dark lady would be the only ancient Sith who would ever consider Asherad Hett to be worthy of their secrets. Ironic, as other ancients hated him. Asherad deluded himself into believing that he was only going to learn from the dark side in an effort to destroy Vader and the Emperor. But when he finally emerged from the ancient temple of Korriban, the war was over and they had been defeated. The Sith were gone. Losing himself in the unknown regions without purpose, Asherad Hett would run aground with the Yuuzhan Vong. They would in turn capture and torture him relentlessly, experimenting on his body and replacing his cybernetic arm with an organic beast arm. They even removed his eye, replacing it with what is called a surge coral seed. These parasites had the intended effect of making the subject physically stronger and completely subservient to the Vong. Unfortunately, every test subject only died from this process, and the same would have happened to Asherad Hett, only he was special. He did something different. Had he not learned from the dark side of the Force to sustain himself, he too would have perished there. Eventually, Asherad managed to break out from his imprisonment and would return to the galaxy with a new name, Darth Krayt, determined to rebuild the Sith in such a way that they would bring about balance and order to a chaotic galaxy. The problem remained though. Krayt himself was implanted with the Surge Coral, which were now incredibly painful and threatened to drain him of all life. This was until he would find a solution. Krayt put himself in a stasis chamber to stave off the effects, while he set in motion the chain of events for the One Sith to build up into a grand empire. The Surge Coil would become the catalyst of Krayt's largest problem though, when the Dark Lord awoke in an era that is now aptly named the Legacy Era of Star Wars. Krayt would use the One Sith to take over the galaxy and to scatter the Jedi, but it was only a matter of time before his condition threatened to end his life. It was his burden, his death sentence. Returning to the world of Korriban, Krayt desperately took with him 3 ancient Sith holocrons and beseeched them for knowledge. He was dying and he could feel it. Appearing before him are the holocron spirits of Bane, Nihilus, and Darth Endedu, some of the most influential Dark Lords that have ever existed, true pillars of the Order. This is how he was greeted by Lord Bane. So the would-be Sith returns. My knowledge is not for you. You are not a Sith. You are pretender, nor are you rabble. This was my lesson. 2 Sith there should be, no more. One holding power, one desiring it. You defy the teachings of Bane. Bane had nothing but contempt for the new philosophy of Krayt, how he had resurrected them, even calling him a pretender, and referring to his followers as rabble. For those who may not know or may need a refresher, Krayt organized the Sith Order into the One Sith, or the rule of one. Instead of there being two Sith, the Order itself was one. There was a single Dark Lord of the Sith, and under them many acolytes, lords, and adepts would rule. But instead of each gaining their own power and ascending through the ranks to destroy Krayt, the One Sith, Krayt insisted that he could give all of them purpose for their power. To put it simply, Darth Krayt was a cult leader with all of the Sith worshipping him and obeying his command as a god. He had brainwashed them into believing that he is what gave their lives and their journeys as Sith meaning, their purpose. Like the Jedi Order, Sith Lords under him could take apprentices, and it would spark miniature rule of twos within the One Sith. But they all answered to Krayt. Eventually, if Darth Krayt willed it, the apprentice that became stronger than their teacher would kill them, striking down their master in a show of loyalty to Krayt. The thought process of this design, though, is that if there was an army of ruled of two Sith with a single Dark Lord overseeing all of them, keeping them in line through pure devotion, the Sith Order itself would essentially become unstoppable. The Sith are one, with the Order taking precedence over all selfish ambition. The power they gain has the purpose of maintaining total control over a galaxy of chaos. This is what Krayt tried to explain to Bane, saying that he had improved upon Bane's vision, recreating it as he once did. Krayt ended by asking, "For what is power without a purpose?" But that's when Bane snaps and shouts at the Dark Lord saying this: "Power is its own purpose. To share it is to dilute it. You delude yourself, pretender. Your order will yet turn on itself, and you." Bane not only echoes the ancient Sith sentiment of power for power's sake, but also prophesizes that the One Sith will fail. This is indeed true, as while the rule of one was powerful, its only weakness was Krayt himself. Should Krayt fail, the entire order would crumble with him. This is the reason Bane hated him. Krayt caused the stability of the Sith Order to balance on his own ability to stay alive, which was not sustainable if Krayt could not figure out a solution to his condition. This is something that Bane knew, and called Krayt out on his BS. To make things worse, the dogpile continues. A far more ancient Sith, Darth Endedu, says that he knows why Krayt is there, and he fears that which is consuming his body. Krayt doesn't deny this, but instead speaks to each one of them according to their accomplishments. He asks how Bane overcame the Orbalisk armor, how Endedu escaped his decaying flesh, how Nihilus bound his spirit to his mask and his armor. He begs to know any one of these secrets. Instead, Nihilus mutters a cursory phrase, speaking in his distorted, evil tongue. Bane calls Krayt a weak-willed pretender and tells him to behold his destiny. Endedu screams at Krayt, saying that his fear consumes him. When the ancients have finished their lecture, Bane has a terrifying revelation. He sees the coral growing over his flesh. They continue to corrupt him until he is transformed, no longer a man, a Sith, but a disgusting beast of pure pain, crying out in agony, begging for death, for release. Whether this is an illusion or sorcery from the long-dead Sith, we do not actually know. But once it is over, Krayt is hunched over and covered in spikes, horns, and growths that transform him into some kind of a monster. Enraged and through with begging, he proclaims that he is the Dark Lord of the Sith, and he will take what he desires. Releasing a wave of dark side energy, Krayt roars out with his power and ends whatever spell was put upon him, allowing his body to revert to normal. At the same time, Krayt's wave of power also dispels the spirits of the ancient lords back within their holocrons. Krayt vows that if they will not serve him, then he will find his own way, his own solution. And from that point forward, we never see Krayt interact with any ancient Sith again, as it is clear that they will be of no help to the Dark Lord. From the meeting, we are able to see why none of the Sith who came before him considered Krayt to be a legitimate Dark Lord, despite all of his power and his ability to control His desire for the dark side is to use it for a noble purpose. Originally, Asherad Hett had decided that the Jedi were too weak and ineffectual to keep a galaxy from tearing itself apart. Asherad was a man who had seen how the Jedi had failed despite their efforts, and as a Jedi, Asherad truly had tried his best to be a good person, to live by a greater code than his own will. In the end, he decided that only a Sith could control the ruthlessness of the galaxy. The Sith Order was the only thing more ruthless than the galaxy itself. Krayt would dominate and put an end to chaos, reigning over all beings. He would establish a peace of his own. Most Sith Lords fight for glory and power. Darth Krayt cared about the state of civilization. In his mind, the only way to keep the Sith in line was to become them. He hated what Vader and Sidious did to the Jedi and truly wished to destroy them. That is what began his dark path. In reality, Krayt hated the ancient Sith just as much as they hated him. He had remade the Sith, and he believed that this was his right, to undo the damage that the ancients had caused, oppress the galaxy. But of course, Krayt became the ultimate irony, the thing that he swore to destroy. The dark side corrupts all, no matter how noble their intentions, and Krayt was far from an exception. Krayt became the chaos, the oppressor of the galaxy. He tortured beings beyond their limits, and it was he who ordered the destruction of the Jedi. And yet, the ancient Sith saw through his guise. They knew that despite everything, Krayt was a Trojan horse, a Sith pretender bent on twisting their order to keep it controlled, rather than attempting to gain power and glory. He wanted to keep the galaxy in line rather than rule it as a god. To the ancient Sith, this was heresy, and Krayt was a liar. The ancient Sith would rather see the Sith destroyed than in the hands of one who would muzzle it. And that is the great conflict between Krayt and the ancient Dark Lords of the Sith. But what are your thoughts on this, my friends? What are your thoughts on Darth Bane? Is he a man of genius or of madness? We will continue here at the Archives to document the story of Krayt and his future. As always, my friends, thank you so much for stopping by the channel and the Archives today, and may the Force be with you.